Warren Sharp, who likes
Yes.
Sharp Stats, he's on Twitter, and he covers the whole league. And today he was really interested in the fact that the Texans, who have a new offensive coordinator, they had Bobby Slowick, who was a Kyle Shanahan guy, fired him, D'Amico, and brought in Nick Casey, who spent 2 years with the Rams, and before that he was with the Patriots for a long time. And they're making a big deal because Stroud has earned the right and freedom to call audibles and set his own protections, and the Texans are making a big deal about it. Warren Sharp can't believe they didn't have the freedom beforehand, is making a big deal that neither did Lamar Jackson for years, and that it's malpractice to limit a top level quarterback like that. And I don't even know that if he knows that this is a common feature of the Kyle Shanahan offense, and that Brock Purdy cannot adjust protections or call audibles. And I just think it's interesting that D'Amico Ryans gave that power to CJ Stroud. It stands to reason that he would give it to Brock Purdy too, considering he's just as cerebral. I don't know.
Well,
what do you think?
Well, there's a lot of things about Kyle's process that don't make sense across football, just garden variety football. The lack of a hurry up. They don't play with tempo. They don't have a 2-minute drill. The step back, the drop back game doesn't match up with the blocking schemes in terms of dropping back and the protections with the offensive line. I do think that there comes a time where your process can only take you but so far, and that's what makes great teams, right? That's what makes for the good stuff, where it's saying you never have a team where it's just all the coach or it's just all the players, right? And you can clearly see how they're designed. The best teams that you've seen come with great coaching, and then the great players kind of like apply, but they also take it to the next level. What I'm describing is what you've just talked about as far as quarterbacks are concerned, being able to call your own audibles, being able to call your own protections, being able to have ownership over the offense. And it's not the fact that the offenses would be Brock's in this instance. It would be that Brock has full control over what Kyle has built for him, right? And then Brock can find his way. But what kind of throws me off is that if you have something that operates as intended, then you wouldn't have to worry about like all of these special things. It's almost like the stinger. If I was out today and I said, "Hey, Grant, I need to borrow your car," you know what I mean? Can I borrow the stinger and go down the block with it? The most you're gonna say is like, "Yo, here, take the keys. Don't do anything stupid. Just bring it back at a certain time. Leave gas in it." But if it's a beater, you're going to tell me, hey, you got to slow down on quick hills. You got to jiggle the key a little bit to get it to start. If it doesn't start, you got to make sure you pump the gas 3 times. When you're going up the hill, you may stall out, jut the wheel over to the side so you don't get caught. And that's what I feel like Kyle's offense is like when it comes time for him to hand it over to a quarterback, where anybody who runs if I was running the stinger and it was a beater, I would come back and be like, "Thanks for the ride, Grant." And on the low, I'm like, "Your car is a piece of shit. Like, it doesn't really run properly." And I feel that way in a sense about Kyle's offense. That's why he's so hokey with, like, giving people autonomy over it, because he always wants it's always masked by intelligent design, right? So when you're telling me all of this weird stuff about your car, I look at you and I'm like, "Grant, you gotta get a new car." And then you gaslight me and say, "No, you don't know how to drive. That's your problem, coach. You don't know how to drive this thing intelligently." So I do believe that that's the biggest excuse that Kyle is going to use every time when it's time for him to give autonomy over to the offense for um, quarterbacks to really grow in the offense. And if you've noticed, there's not a lot of mature quarterbacks in this offense. There's not. Like, they're always really young. And if they're mature, they always have problems. Like, Matt Ryan had issues. He had to get autonomy of this offense, right? Matt Stafford doesn't have that issue because Sean McVay actually changed all of the passing schemes in this offense. But it's built for a young quarterback. It's not built for a blossoming, mature quarterback.
Which is what they have. So what's the point of having a quarterback who's physically limited yet mentally elite?
Great.
I mean, that's the kind of guy you want to empower, because if you're just going to treat him like a robot, then he can't really execute something that like a bigger, faster, stronger robot could execute. So that's what I don't understand. And then like with Kyle, the audible thing is cool to be able to call your own plays in line of scrimmage. But I think what's more important is the protections, because we've seen that Kyle's method doesn't really work that well. It didn't work in the Super Bowl. It's one of the main reasons. It is the main reason they lost the Super Bowl the second time to Steve Spagnuolo, because Spagnuolo blitzed them to death and they got like 9 unblocked rushers. It seems what Kyle always wants to do. First of all, he won't let the quarterback adjust to protections. It's the center. So that's weird. And that's not what the Texans are going to be doing anymore. Also, it's always, let's beat the blitz with hot routes. Let's put 5 guys in the, maybe we'll have George Kittle block. Maybe we'll have a 6th blocker, but let's get 4 or 5 into the pattern and let's throw towards the blitzer and beat it that way, which works a lot of the time. But if defenses know that you're always going to throw hot instead of going max protect, then they can sort of tendency you, figure out where that hot's going to be aggressive, and get turnovers. We saw the Ravens do that to the Niners on Christmas night. And I think if he could like give Brock Purdy the freedom to go up there and be like, you know what, we're going to max protect this play. I want 8 blockers on this play. We're going to pick this up and I'm going to hit my best receiver down the field because all I need is him one-on-one. He'll win. Like, why can't the Niners ever do that? Instead, they're always trying to get cute and throw hot, and it leads to a lot of mistakes.
Grant, because we're not going to cut away to Kyle Shanahan if we do that.
Correct.
We don't get to cut away and have the B-roll to Kyle Shanahan and say, now that's a Kyle Shanahan play. Just how he drew it up. That's why.
It's all about him. You know, I saw someone tweet this today, and I thought it was genius, that sports in general, not just football, would be better if coaches were locked out of the stadium on game days and all the decision-making and adjustments actually had to be executed by the professional athletes on the spot by themselves. I mean, the coaches can be there Monday through Friday to prepare them like directors in a play, but when it's time to actually do the production, it's the players who are in charge, not the freaking play callers. It's a play caller sport. And Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay have sort of made it that the last 10, 15 years. I miss the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady days where the best quarterbacks were the ones making the decisions and calling the plays. I think I don't know. That's my rant. I'm 75 years old.
Well, what you're talking about, Grant, I mean, if you really want to get old and surly with it, you've hit the nail right on the head. And really what it is that you're looking at game versus entertainment.
Yep.
What we watched with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, and what's even wild about it is that the game is still the game. 2 great quarterbacks from 2 different upbringings in their college career, right? Peyton Manning was a darling. Tom Brady had to fight and claw every step of the way to even make it. And they both even entered in the draft that way. But they both had different beginnings. Peyton Manning struggled early. He did. We all had to sit down and stomach and watch that. And you know what? You don't make a lot of money when you're not scoring points. And they want guys to go hard and fast. Years of sitting down a quarterback for 3 years are all but gone, even though most of the best quarterbacks now had to wait. They were good right away. They still like to microwave it. And the truth is that if you remember during that time when you're during the era that you're speaking of with Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Peyton Manning, when men were at the helm, getting 3 plays at a time, choosing their offense and really making things look intricate on the field, we were all laughing at college for what? Check with me. Look, this isn't pro ball. Look at them. They're all looking at the sideline. Remember how we used to laugh at Oregon and Chip Kelly when they used to throw their play cards up and it used to look so elementary because the guys didn't have the cognitive ability to be able to learn the scheme.
Don't think, I'll think for you. That's what the whole game has become. And I don't like it.
Yeah, and that's what pro football is now. Where what you said now is that most of your head coaches now aren't head coaches, they're play callers. Yeah. They're guys that know how to fast track their system. They're putting their hands on it themselves, and they're brute forcing.
And the game is dominated by these play callers, man. It's dominated by these. It's won and lost by these play callers.
Well, and then that's why you know why Andy Reid is so rare, because he's actually a head coach.
Yep.
That happens to call plays.
Right. As opposed to a play caller who is a head coach in name, but not
coach.
really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really what the game has turned into now, and you've seen it. Like, now, even when you talk about the and you know what else too? Now that the game is dumbed down, all the mediocre guys who were nowhere near the standard back then, they all love it because now they can talk about it from a slowed down pace because that's what they knew, having the
I
game
mean,
spoon-fed to them.
when play callers dominate the sport like now, like what you get is 4 substitutions between every play.
Mhm.
A brand new personnel grouping every play.
Mhm.
A brand new form. Like, does that make the sport more enjoyable to the fans? Does it really? I mean, or would it be cool to see the starters figuring it out on their own? That's what it was like in the 60s and 70s and the 80s for the most part. I mean, Jim Plunkett called his own plays with the Raiders. Do we really win because we get these little micromanager control freaks telling like these great athletes what exactly to do? Does that make it better? I don't know that it does.
I know what it does is that it blows it up bigger than what it should be. So now we care about all of this stupid shit now that the geeks are running the show. So what do we care about now? Fantasy points, DVOA and all of this geek shit, or bringing out all of these stats because that's what matters because we're passing the ball 35,000 times a game.
And yet your team can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
You have no idea how to protect your athletes, how to prepare them to play football. You have a great playbook though. Problem is everyone's hurt.
Yeah. I'm just look, man, the game has changed. And what's even crazier is that now the teams that are cosplaying as those teams are the championship teams now. Right? Like now when back in the 90s and the early 2000s, being a tough team in the NFL was a prerequisite. It wasn't a trait. It wasn't, oh, this is a tough team. This is a finesse team. There was no such thing as that. There was a team that you could either be championship ready or you weren't, period. Either you had a defense or you could stop the run and run the ball or you can't, period. Now, there's teams right now just making excuses for everything that they can't do and calling it a scheme, calling it a trait. This is what we do now. That's what college used to do.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that D'Amico fired Slowick and brought in a guy from the Tom Brady Patriots who's going to be a throwback. I mean, he basically went a whole different direction. D'Amico. And I feel like what maybe Kyle's system isn't as cutting edge as it was a few years ago. The weaknesses have been exposed, and it's become evident that if you have a mid quarterback that you don't trust, who isn't highly paid, who's not elite, this system is great because it simplifies the game for him. Hey, don't even think about I'll give you 2 plays. Just execute, buddy. Just freaking execute, and I'll make you look better than you are. But if you do have a quarterback that is special, this system ultimately can hold him back a little bit because you have no control over at the line of scrimmage. And if the play caller's wrong, he ends up on his back or throwing a bunch of picks. So maybe if the Niners are all in with Brock going forward, the future involves more of him making decisions and Kyle either taking a back seat or going somewhere else where he can micromanage another quarterback.
100%. And what's funny is that the plausible deniability is built in, and you really see the bait and switch when it comes to that. You see coaches that they choke the process, they overload quarterbacks, they overload players with way too much information of just do what I tell you to do. You know what also it does though? It allows that guy to go back to people who don't know shit about his system and point everything at the quarterback and say, he didn't do what I told him to do.
Right.
If he would just follow the process, we could get it through. It's you can shield
that
yourself.
sack was his fault. That pick was his fault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at Trey Lance.
Yep.
You know what? Forget the fact that his name is Trey Lance. Just look at the fact that there was a 3rd picked overall QB and Kyle got away with it.
Yep.
Forget that it was Trey Lance. Just that's what happens when you can lean on your offense and say, he just can't see the field. He just can't get it done.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the quarterback who I didn't even scout, the rest of my building brought in, who came in and saved us at the last minute, that's the guy who got it all together. It's like, come on, bro. There's no rhyme or reason to this. And they don't want that to get out. They want to
Let
look
me
like
ask you
they
this,
have this
Coach.
under control.
You think Brock wants the ability to call it audibles and set his own protections like the Texans just gave CJ Stroud? You think he'd like that?
Hell yes. I
Hell
bet
yeah.
my last dollar that he wants that. I think
Every
he's
quarterback
frustrated
does.
because he can't.
Every quarterback does. And he knows he can do it. I don't want to speak for him, but he knows he can do it. And you know what? He'd be good at it. I think he'd be good at it. Maybe he wouldn't be Tom Brady or Peyton Manning, but he'd be a lot better than Jake Brendel.